Alrighty. What's up? What's up?
What's going on?
All right. So once again, we're here with another James Massey live, and what we do is we interview real estate agents that's doing tremendous things in order to create value and impact, and being able to share back and give to the real estate community. And I'm here with my buddy Justin today, and one of the guys, man, like honestly, I met him on a boat and he had like an EXP shirt on, and he was just walking around the boat, and I was just like, yeah, I probably should know that guy. so I think we were the only people. It wasn't an EXP event or anything, but both of us there. You had your shirt on. It was like, hey man, I'm with EXP, and ever since then, I've been seeing you at every single event, everything going forward, just consistent. No matter where it is, you're there. So like, just kind of going to origins with stuff, man. Like letting people know like about who you are and where you came from, why you got into real estate. Can you kind of share that whole story?
Yeah. And before I do that, though, man, dude, that was honestly, this is one of the coolest things ever. Like being a part of EXP, because we went on that cruise, right? And I forgot where we were going, St. Thomas, or there was a couple other islands. I forget the islands we were going to. And I told the wife before, I'm like, hey, I'm bringing an EXP shirt just in case, right? And your wife comes up, sees me. She's like, "You're with EXP," and man, the rest was history, man. We created a friendship, and I think that's one of the coolest stories I have at EXP so far. Just a random cruise that we're on, and next thing you know, we're just we still talk to this day, and that was what, pre-COVID, so two and a half years ago.
Man, it was literally right before COVID hit. Like, I mean, in fact, like I didn't even know COVID was a thing at that particular time because I don't really pay attention to a lot of news. But I remember when we came back from the ship, everybody was like, "Hey, are y'all okay? Y'all okay?" Because there's all these issues going on, and then the whole world shut down afterwards. So,
Dude, well, the craziest part about that was what, like, March 14th or whatever the date was, right? Like a week later, that cruise ship was stuck for like 2 weeks out in the ocean. I was like, man, we just missed that. Thank God, you know. But yeah, so man, really appreciate you having me on. I've been watching your podcast now for a while, and just love it. I love what you're doing out there. I mean, we have a lot of similarities in the way we work, the hustle, and just wanted to help agents. Um, so my story goes, I've been in real estate almost my entire life. I wanted no part of it for most of my life. My mom was a real estate agent, and I watched her hustle and grind and really build something special. But I saw the hours she had to work. I mean, it'd be 9, 10 o'clock at night, and she's doing contracts, and she's running. Back in the day before Central Locks and MLS, I mean, she's reading through Harmon Homes to see what listings she could show her clients and making phone calls. I mean, it just wasn't. I didn't want that type of hustle. You know what I mean? And so I became a union roofer. I did that for like 7 years. I loved it. My body doesn't love it now. It definitely took a toll on me. But, you know, we were going back and forth. I finally started getting laid off, because between 2000, 2008 and 2015, we all know what was going on. And so I slowly, I started getting laid off more as a union roofer. And I walked into my mom's office one day and just happened to see one of her checks on the desk. And I was like, wait a second, like I'm in the wrong business. So I went and got licensed, and uh, the one thing that was huge for me on that was I wanted to do it on my own. And so my mom didn't give me anything. She gave me advice. She gave me starting points, but I had to run with it. And so I sat there and I just kept building and building. And I just, next thing you know, I got the opportunity that that I had, got presented to me, and left her brokerage and came over to here, and I mean, just loving it, man. Um, I've hit Icon 3 times, as you can see in the back. I
Yeah,
got
man. I was just looking at that. Like as you were speaking, I mean, I'm listening to your story, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, this is an amazing story. Never want to get into it and send a check to my mom and making them, and then at the same time, like I'm looking at the back, I see the hustle, I see the grind, I see the grit. I see the trophies. You're doing your thing.
absolutely, and it came to a point where you know one of the best things that my mom taught me about real estate is that I didn't want to do it like she did, right? Like, and I don't mean that bad. She had an amazing career, and she did very, very well. I mean, between 2008 and 2015, she was still closing anywhere from 10 to 20 homes a month during the crash, right? She built an amazing business, but she was still 12, 14, 15 hours a day. And so, I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted that freedom too,
Yeah.
So, for me, it was more of a, how do I build the same thing that she built, but I get more freedom? So now I have an assistant, I have a buyer's agent. um, I hired a videographer to help me with some certain things that I need done. She helps with my listing photos. I kind of put this little team together, very non-traditional team too, by the way. But I just put this little team together, and it just gave me the same results, just a lot more freedom, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's funny how, like, you know when you're young, you're watching your parents and you're watching how they move and how they operate, and like decisions are made right then. Like right then, your decision was like, I don't like, my mom's doing well, but I don't want to do it that way.
Right,
My dad was an entrepreneur as well. Like, he had a business, and he worked a lot of manual. He had a manual business. He did lawn care, and I seen him. He built his business up to. He was making really good money. Help support the family and everything. But it was one of those things like, yeah, I don't want to do it that way. I wanted that freedom. I wanted that ability to kind of be able to, move around and enjoy some things, and not be attached to a phone every time that, even if I did try to get away, I couldn't get away really because mentally I was somewhere else, even though I was, where I was. So, which kind of goes to our whole point right now, man. Like events and being able to go to stuff. I mean, like I said, you are the one person that I know, no matter where it is, that's an event's happening, you're gonna be there, no matter what.
yep.
And you built your business. You built your business around your life, right?
Oh yeah, yep. Absolutely. And it's funny that, and I'm really glad you noticed that, because you get, like, and I have super high respect for guys like Ricky Carruth, right? Like, super cold caller, that's his thing. I have respect for agents who, spend a ton of money on leads and things of that nature, because it's just what works for them. And what a lot of people don't know, and what I decided to do differently, was I wanted to build my business on networking. And this is before I made the move to, EXP. I wanted to build a business just strictly on networking. And that's one of the main reasons I go to all these events, is like, the more people right? What does Grant Cardone say, right? If they don't know you, they don't flow you, right? So, like, and you just never know the one person that you're going to meet that's going to change everything for you. You know what I mean? But then also you build friendships out of it. I mean, like we talked about right at the beginning of this, man. We met on a cruise because I decided to put on an EXP shirt that day. If I never put that shirt on, we would have never met.
I would not know you.
And,
Maybe I would have known you, but I mean, it's
and
unlikely, right?
well, and more maybe in like a passing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've run into your wife at one of these events, and she's like, "Where's your wife at?" And I'm like, "Oh, I left her at home," you know. But you know what I mean. But like, you know what I mean. Like, we wouldn't have that relationship, and so like, that's what I really value. But I built the whole thing on networking. I mean, I went to I got this thing for a free event one time to go down to Miami. It was oh god, what was it called? It's some type of default loans. I think it's called MPL Default Loans Conference, right?
Hmm.
And it was hilarious because I get this free invite and I'm like, Miami, February, no brainer. Like, probably not going to go to any of the stuff in the conference. I'm going to go there and just network, right? And so we go there, and this guy overhears me saying, "Oh, you're from outside Chicago." And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, I just picked up this house on a default in Maywood. I got to get him evicted." Um, and so we exchanged numbers, like we BS for a little bit. And no joke, 2 years later, I completely forgot about this guy. 2 years later, this guy calls me and he's like, "Hey, man, we're right there. I need you to go take possession of the house, do this, do that." Got the listing, and that trip netted me $6,000. The trip only cost me 1,000,
Yeah.
but it netted me 6,000 more, right? And so that's what I mean. Like, I've just built my entire thing on network and word of mouth, and I try to teach agents all the time. If you're gonna do something, do it where it doesn't hurt your pocketbook, right? If you got somebody that can front you a bunch of money and you want to spend $5,000 a month on Zillow, like, do it. If that's going to work for you, right? But as you know, like, most things only work if you do the follow up, right? If you stay fresh in their minds. And but it was just such a weird situation, and now I'm his main guy. Like, anything he buys in Illinois, it's me. Um, and he does stuff throughout the entire country. And he's like, "Man, you got an agent in this area?" I was like, "For 25% referral, I do." You know what I mean? So you know what I mean. You just never know the person that you're gonna meet that's gonna just help you generate more revenue, especially if you give them the service that they deserve.
Man, I mean, I think there's a lot that you said in there. I mean, a big part of it is just staying in relationship with people, and just reaching out. A coach told me one time. He said, "Look, like, you don't have a money problem, you have a people problem.
Yep.
The people have the money."
Yep.
So your goal every day should be to meet as many people as possible and stay in relationship, like you said, top of mind, because like that relationship is going to be one of the things that they're going to reach out to. What I'm saying, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And
Yep.
if you don't know those people, then there's no way that you're going to be their agent at that particular time.
You're gonna love this one. I don't know if you know Coach Michael Burt.
Yeah.
So it was very similar to what you just said, but he says it all the time. He says, "You don't need more money, you need more people.
Yeah.
People have the money."
That's
And I
it.
was like, "Ooh, yeah, love that."
That's it, man. So, so all right. So like you got a very like warm personality that that goes out and meet people, talk to people. Was that something that you've always been like, or was it something that you had to kind of develop?
Ooh, man, Dr. Phil in me here. Um, you know what? Yeah, I've always been pretty outgoing. I've always just really liked people. I always wanted people to like me. I always wanted to be part of the in crowd and stuff. And that didn't always work out for me. You know what I mean? And so at some point, you when you get to the point where you're like, listen, when you realize not everybody is supposed to be in your circle, right? That's when you start really understanding how important the circle you have already is. Um, so I network, and sometimes there's people who are just not a good fit, and it's okay. Like we just don't mesh. But I try to treat everybody how I would want to be treated. You know what I mean? And so when I meet somebody new, and they might be telling me a story, and you know I know this is going to sound maybe fairly bad, but sometimes I'm really not interested in their story, right? But I listen and I nod my head, and because you just never know, man. Like if you don't do that, and yeah, I might not be interested in the story, but to them, they're like, man, this guy's really interested in my story. I should tell him another one, and I'm like, no, but you know what I mean. But like, it's just like I just try to treat people the way that I would want to be treated.
Yeah, I mean, there's a book that talks about that, man, how to win friends and influence people. Just like I mean, if you've read that book, I mean, the first part of it is just the guy listening and just nodding. You know what I'm saying? But people like if you give them an opportunity to kind of share, they feel like they're even closer to you. And basically, that's what you're saying right now
Oh,
is
absolutely.
you're interested in what they're interested in, and because you're interested in that, they feel more close, and that's how the bond is kind of developing.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is, so here's one of the thing I teach my new agents all the time, because they're like, "Oh, Justin, what's your listing presentation like?" And I'm like, "I don't have one." "You don't have a listing presentation?" I'm like, "No, I don't have a listing presentation." I'm like, I think they're ridiculous. And nothing against people who do listing presentations, because obviously that works for them. But I am more of that personality, and I understand the numbers, right? Like 70% of people that list their home list with the first agent that they meet. Okay. So if I'm the second agent to show up to that house, it doesn't matter what I say to them of like, look at this and look what I've done, and here's what I can do for you on commission and blah blah blah. Because in the end, if they don't like you, and you kind of said this earlier, if they don't like you, they ain't gonna work with you. And so, I go in, look at the house, man, this is beautiful. I love this, blah blah blah. Hey, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Because the number one subject that everybody knows and they're an absolute expert on is themselves. So if you just get them to talk about themselves, and that they're, I mean, I had a listing presentation the other day, and the lady is a chemist for DuPont, and they're relocating to Ohio. And it's not anything that really interests me, but I looked at her and I said, you know what, this is really cool. I've never met a chemist before. I definitely never met a chemist from DuPont. Like, how cool is that? Like, I've painted with your paint that you've probably chemically put together. You know what I mean? Like, just finding that common ground with somebody. And so, like I said, I built my entire business off of just networking with people.
So with you networking with so many people, and definitely going to different events and stuff like that. Um, like not only have you been able to like get business from it, but like what are some of the things that you think that I guess you heard that formed your business when you got back? Like say was it are you gathering nuggets to help your business to be able to take it to the next level?
I think my favorite line of all time, and it kind of goes into what I've been trying to build. But a good friend of ours, Brent Gove, he says it all the time that rising tides lift all ships. And man, when I heard that one at whatever event it was, 2.5 years, 3 years ago, um, I really took that to heart. I was like, you know what? If the more serving you are to people, right, the more they're willing to do. And so like even with my group of agents that I have, I mean, it could be 9 o'clock at night and I'll pick up their call. I'll talk with them. I'll try and work them through whatever they're doing. Now, if it's just some random number, nah, I ain't picking it up.
Yeah.
But if it's my people, or somebody that's in a distressed situation, yeah, I'm going to help you because I know long term, when it's my turn for help, I know you're going to be there.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's great, man. And Brent's probably like one of the most giving people, man. Like, he'll literally give you the shirt off his back,
Yep.
just to help you, anywhere you can. And it's funny, man. Like, the more you help people, the more you get help. It's
Yep.
funny how that whole thing works itself out that way.
No, you're absolutely right. And it goes right back to what I'm saying, network. Because not only do you not know the next person that's gonna maybe change your life forever, you also don't know who that next person is that you might need to help, right? Like, and that's where the beauty of networking comes in, man. And the thing is you're not everyone's gonna like you, and that's okay, right? But there's gonna be people that look at you. I mean, it was crazy. I posted a video the other day, and this one lady commented on it, and she's like, "Man, I met him in Cabo for the first time, and he was just such a delight and stuff." And I'm like, I'm trying to remember where I exactly met her,
Yeah,
during the trip, but I remember her. I just don't remember like what we talked about and stuff like that. But obviously, whatever we talked about, like that resonated with her. And dude, that's an amazing feeling, to be able to know that you're able to connect with people and just, you know, yeah, I don't, I would never consider myself as someone like a Brent Gove because the guy is just unbelievable. I mean, it, I honestly think he could do what Tony Robbins does and just make a killing of it and never sell real estate again, right?
I'd
Uh,
agree.
he's that empathetic, but that smart and that motivating. And so, just to know that I'm able to go out there and just help people, and motivate them to do better, and honestly, I want everyone to do better than me. You know what I mean? Like I want to do amazing, great things. But if somebody gets something from me and they blow it out of the water and they take it to a new level, man, I'm just happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, part of the reason you might not have remembered so much of that conversation is the unlimited drinks that we was having down in Cabo.
But it probably didn't help. But it's probably in the hot tub somewhere, and but but yeah, no, I mean and the coolest thing, and I tell people this all the time. Um, I you know I joined. Oh God, what was it? 2019. I came over to EXP, and I want to say it was in January, and they had a shareholders event in March, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go to this. Like, I just want to check out the vibe. I want to check out everything, right? And I never came from a traditional, brick and mortar brokerage where it was like, yeah, everybody at the brokerage is your friend until their client, that they talked to 3 years ago decides to use you, and now they're mad at you, right? You know, and actually, before I get into this, I had an agent tell me one time, super top producing agent, and she said she doesn't go to the office anymore. And I said, well, why? You have your own office there. She's like, because I get no work done.
That's right.
She's like, all the agents come in and they want to ask me questions and they want my help and that, and I don't have time for that. And I was like, oh, that that I mean, that makes sense, right? Um, and so I kind of got myself a little off track with that. But what were we talking about? Sorry.
No, 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 no. You're good. You're good. You're good, man. But, I mean, I'm like when you were making that statement, I was actually just thinking about like, I did come from a traditional, place, and we used to have like what is called the bullpen, and in the bullpen, you got all these desks and computers and stuff, and people are able to come in and technically work, right? But it wasn't really a whole lot of working going on. It was like a little social club. People having conversations and stuff like that. I mean, you'll go to the copier. There's a conversation at the copier, and like I wasn't getting my freaking work done. It was like it was cool, the camaraderie or whatever, but I mean, I wasn't making no money, so it didn't matter. So I had to figure it out. I had to, I worked from home a lot more. And I eventually got an office, but then even there, I stopped going to that office as much. So I think the difference, like who we're surrounded with and who we connected with, like there, when you're talking to the top 1% of agents, right, in the country,
Right.
and you're learning and you're duplicating from what they're doing, and you're getting better with your craft from that. You can't help but to take your business to the next level.
Yeah, and you just reminded me. I'm so glad you started saying that. So I end up going to shareholders, and I've heard the stories of how other brokerages work, and the agent, she doesn't want to help the new agents. Not that she doesn't want to help them, she just doesn't have the time to help them, right? And I remember walking into shareholders. I know nobody. I'm just walking around. I'm trying to figure it out. I meet a couple people. And then I start meeting these agents who are doing 50, 100 million, 150 million a year, right? And I think at the time, a measly $5 million a year agent, in comparison. And and so I just started talking with them. And the biggest thing that I got out of that, I couldn't believe the information they were willing to give me.
Yeah.
Like, it blew my mind. And I ended up asking one of the agents, and I cannot remember his name. But I said, hey, these are huge nuggets, man. And I really appreciate it. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to implement this and write like, oh, I went the wrong way. The trophies behind me show that I implemented that, right? But I asked him right after we started talking, I said, why are you giving me all your secret sauces, man? And he looked at me and he said, Justin, the company we're with now, he goes, if you're not successful, I'm not successful.
That's it.
You might not be part of my group, but the more successful you are, the more success I'm going to have. And man, that was it. That was I'm going to every event. I'm meeting somebody new every single time. I mean, I make it a goal to meet somebody new. And it doesn't have to be 10 new people. It just needs to be one or two, somebody I've never talked to or that's new to the company, and yeah, I mean, when he said that to me, huge, huge. And so now I implement, not only the things he taught me about real estate and how to build it bigger, but I implement just that philosophy.
Man, it's contagious. Like,
And
I mean, once, like things start from the top down. So like him saying that to you right there, you catch on fire, boom, you're gone, and then you're passing it on to the next person. That next person catches it, boom, they catch on fire. They pass to the next person, and this whole thing is kind of built out. I mean, one thing that you haven't said about the trophies that you receive is there's a financial benefit to those icon trophies. Because I mean, I've been in, and I think that's important to say as well, because I've been in brokerages where people have gotten plaques and trophies and things of that nature, and you feel good about it. You know what I'm saying? Because you accomplished it and you got that plaque. But can you share, what I'm saying, about the financial benefit for that
yeah,
particular trophy?
oh, I love talking about that, man. So I'm going to turn around and point. The first one all the way to the left, right? That's worth $16,000, right? I got $16,000 in EXPI stock. That was at $8 a share, right? That I got. The second one hurt a little bit. I got that right at the COVID mark at 144, and it split to 77. But what's crazy about those first two is not only was it $16,000 worth of stock, they're both worth $32,000 worth of stock because they both split, right? And then that third one is fresh. That's brand new. $16,000 stock award, and I want to say it was around 20 something dollars at the time when I got that one. And, I joke all the time. I had my daughter in here the other day, and she's 16. And I said, hey, when you're 18, you got a job. And she's like, I don't know if I want to do real estate, right? Like she's got the same mentality as me, right? She's like, I don't know if I want to do real estate. And I said, just let me show you something real quick. And so she comes into my office, and I go, that's 16,000, that's 16,000, that's I go, kid, that's $48,000 sitting on that shelf right there. And she's like, what? And I go, what's crazy is it's gonna grow. Right. And once that stock goes back up to 144, because we know it's going to,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Um, I might be doing a lot just more podcasts and not selling homes, because like I'm not gonna need to, you know what I mean? I get to sell homes when I want to at that point, right? So yeah, I mean the yeah, it was a huge financial benefit. And um I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I'm sure you've seen like the networking house parties I do and stuff. I only have that house because of EXP.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I have it, you know? And it's it blows my mind, man. I really try. I don't know if you've ever seen Pat Hayes talk. But man, when Pat gets going and he's talking about everything he's doing, especially on stage, man, he just gets so teary eyed because everything's changed. So I really try not to get teary eyed, but man, the emotions that come from what this company has done for me, and just 3.5 years, just 3.5 years, what this company has done for me. It just blows my mind, man.
Man. But dude, man, like, man, I appreciate you, one for your friendship. I appreciate you wearing the EXP shirt on our boat,
Yeah,
to be able to get connected.
yeah,
And man, I like, just seeing the success and everything, dude, like it's been awesome. Once again, like I said, we interview an agent that's killing in the marketplace every Thursday at 11 o'clock. Justin, man, like, what's the one thing you want to leave everybody with, that's looking to kind of grow and kind of build their business?
well, I mean, it's a tough question, right? Because people are people, and you can try and give them everything, but implementing it, and you can't make people implement things. And here's what I tell people all the time: hey, when I first started in this business, I mean, it was a 2.5, 3 year grind. I was 7 days a week. I was 12 to 14 hours a day. I was trying to find every bit of information I could get to try and build it to what I wanted to build it. And I want to say it was around the 3 year mark. I mean, it just started automatically happening. And I said, oh my God, I've made it.
Yeah.
I've made it now. Like I don't have to work, nearly as hard as I was for the last 2.5 years. And so what I would tell a new agent is like, if this is seriously the career path you want to go, get to work, because the next 2.5 years are going to be the toughest years. But once you get past that 3 or even 4 year mark, you are going to be unbelievably impressed with how much more time you'll have, but how much more money you'll make. Um, because it's all about the service, man. It's all about getting the job done. And yeah, I mean, it was a grind, man. But now I'm 7 years into it. Um, I have an assistant. And here's my favorite part, James. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, because there's so many agents who truly, truly believe in that, holding that cell phone to their ear all day long, right? Or having it ring all day long. About a year and a half ago, I took my cell phone off of everything.
Hmm.
I don't have my cell phone on anything. It's not on my signs. It's not on the MLS. Like, if you need to get a hold of me and it's important, it goes to our business line that we have,
Hmm.
which goes to my assistant. And if it's something that she can't handle, or she needs me to talk to them, all right, cool. And she sends me the info and I call them. And like I said, I just wanted to build it to that point where I get the extra freedom and I get to do, on a daily what I want to do.
Yeah, Man, I love that, man. Like we probably should change this topic to building a business around your life. That's probably would have been a better topic for today.
Absolutely, man. Like you gotta, you know, you hear the old adage, man. I'll give you, if you got time, man. I'll give you a great story. And I love my dad to death. You know, it's kind of an emotional story, but my old man, he worked from 16. He started in shipyards, and then he was like the manager of the city busing thing, and then he got a really good job with uh, uh, something Willis, and they do safety training for like the states, right? Like Nevada, California, stuff like that. And he retired, I think it was 2 years ago. 6 months after he retired, he got diagnosed with Parkinson's, right? And it's just like you hear that old adage, man. You work, you work until you die, basically. Like, and that was another thing where I said, actually, it wasn't long after that I said, okay, I'm hiring an assistant. I don't care what this costs me a year. I don't want to have to ever look at an email again if I don't have to, right? I want to be able to spend extra time with my kids because I don't know when that next, not that Parkinson's is a genetic disease, right? But like, I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. And so I didn't want to be one of those people who work, retire, and then boom, like, oh, now you really don't have a quality of life, like the quality of life you were hoping to have when you retire. I want to retire. I want to work, but somewhat feel retired and still have that quality of life.
That's it.
You know,
That's it, man. That's a nugget for a lot of people out there. I
I hope
mean,
so.
you want to write that down, put those goals down, man. So, you want to know more about like real estate. You want to know more about what partnership looks like. You want to know more about like some deals that you got going on. I mean, you can reach out to me. Reach out to Justin. I mean, that's what we're here for. Like I said, just adding value to the real estate community. Once again, buddy, man, I am so glad we was able to connect on this here, and you was able to kind of share your story. Even though I knew a whole lot about you, I actually learned more in this whole process. So,
Yeah, I love you guys, man. And will you do me a favor and tell your amazing wife I said hi? And I look forward to seeing you guys at the next event. I don't know. Are you going to Dallas?
man, hey, if you there, I'm there.
Let's
That's how
go.
we do it.
I'll see you guys in August, man. Maybe we'll go out to dinner or something and hang out and share some more stories. And the other thing, man, that I could leave with this, and I don't want to heavily pitch EXP because EXP is not for everybody. It should be. I mean, it literally should be for everybody, but it's just not. And I completely understand that. But me and you, we come from completely different groups, right?
Yep,
At EXP.
yep.
Um, but the collaboration, and the partnering with people from different groups is what makes this entire thing special. You know what I mean? And that's all I can really say about it, man. I have friends. I probably have more friends in other groups than I do in my own group, and I love my group, right? I love, you know, there's a couple people that I mean just stand out, but I just love them. But like I have really good friends in other groups, and they're really good friends with me, and we don't benefit from each other except just in the collaborating and having nuggets and doing super cool podcasts like this, man.
That's what it's about, man.
Beauty.
You act different when you're an owner. So
True story. True story, man.
all right, well, man. Well, Justin, man, I appreciate it. Once again, every Thursday at 11 o'clock, interviewing somebody. Reach out to either one of us if you want to get more information on what real estate looks like on our end from our lens. So
Yeah.
appreciate your buddy, man. Until the next time, if not, I'll see you in Dallas.
Yes, sir, my man. I appreciate being on, man, and we will talk soon.
All right, man. Over and
Thanks.
out.